All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are here for week 5 of That's What She Said. Welcome back, ladies. How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing, Kalani?
Oh man, better than ever. Better than ever. Is Nasima frozen to y'all? Okay, there she is. She's back. we are back for episode 5 of That Is What She Said, and we'll get into it per usual. Hi everybody, my name is Kaylani Blackwell. I am the co-founder and CEO of Women in Real Estate, a national organization designed to help empower women through education, resources, networking, events, connectivity, opportunities. And we are 75,000 supporters strong nationwide, and we have chapters in 10 local markets. So if you are not a part of the Women in Real Estate or WIRE movement, you need to come get with it. But hi, everybody. I'm Kaylani. Nice to see you again. Go ahead, Patty Addy.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I am Patty Goodspeed. I've been a mortgage banker for 21 years. I've been an investor for over a decade, and I'm excited to be here and contribute what I can and have fun with these ladies.
Nice. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jade, also known as Lady Jade. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I've been a media personality for over 20 years. I'm a real estate investor. I have my real estate license now. And look, we here for a good time, not a long time.
That's right. That's right. Hey, everybody. I'm Nasima, labor and delivery nurse of 13 years, personal finance enthusiast, on a mission to normalize Black wealth and to talk about all the hot topics that we share today, that we're going to talk about today and every Wednesday.
And every Wednesday. We love it. Okay. We can't waste any time. We cannot waste any time because there is something that we absolutely need to address. So for the first time, well, no, I can't even say it's the first time. When I was doing music, I experienced this too. But since That's What She Said has been born, we have hit our first super controversial TikTok that hit the internets. Okay. The fact that we have wasted Beyonce's internets on this topic is crazy to me, but we have to, I want to address it because That's What She Said norm, there is an underlining lesson here that we need to talk about and we need to learn. So before we get into the topic of internet trolls and cyberbullying, let me tell you guys what I'm talking about. This is the TikTok, or the short form content, which was a small snippet, a very tiny edited snippet from last week's episode of That's What She Said. So let me run it back for y'all so y'all can see. Okay.
To the table, I really feel like it's a dangerous question, right? It's dangerous.
It's a disrespectful question. Let's explain why it's a disrespectful question.
It's disrespectful, right? Because what's happening is you're automatically bringing a spirit of competition into a relationship where collaboration should actually be at the nucleus of that, right? Like, who are you that I am obligated to add something to your life? You asked to be invited into mine.
So my question would be, how would a man and or a woman ask ask about a person without saying, what do you bring to the table? Like, You're right. I think that we can rattle off a lot of things as far as the table is concerned about these attributes on paper. What is a more respectful way to ask that question?
Mhm.
I don't know that you could even ever, I don't think immediately you could even get those answers. I think it takes years to get to know somebody if you want to know the truth. I think the
Ooh,
question
don't
that I
tell me
would
that.
be, I know that's why, like, starting over is stupid, right? Like, make it work. I think the question that I could respect a whole lot more is, are we aligned? I want to look at you in the spirit. I don't want to see you how everybody else sees you. I want to see into you. I want to see what your heart is made of. I want to see what your character is like. Can I work with that? Any woman listening, if a man ever asks you, what do you bring to the table? Just leave. Just leave. For the record, only broke men have asked me stupid shit like that. Okay. All right. So that was the clip that garnered a crazy comment section. Do you guys ever watch Savage Mom Life on TikTok? You know
No.
who she is. Okay, so Savage Mom Life is a creator who basically she reacts to videos, but not even the video itself. She'll watch the video and then she'll react to the comments of the video, which a lot of times are often hella hilarious. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to highlight some of those comments, and I think we should respond to them individually for the sake of short form content, which I will repurpose or have repurposed for TikTok for this in particular. So comment number 1 from Kilimanjaro, but it's spelled Kilimanjaro. They all looking for daddies. They don't want to do nothing. Would anyone like to respond?
Man, I want to say, first thing I want to say about that comment section, I was busy and I had a lot going on, and I couldn't help but to respond to some of what was happening. And I had no idea that men would have such an emotionally charged response to women having a conversation, to the point where you would insult women. I mean, you hear about this, but like when something blows up on Twitter and people are always talking about it, I'm never in the drama, so I don't know. And now I was in the drama, so I'm like, oh, okay, this is what it's like when someone's talking about something you completely disagree with or you're offended by, and you have a highly emotionally charged response to it, to the point where you're insulting these women. I just thought that was remarkable. I didn't think men behaved that way, so that was very interesting for me. And in terms of us needing daddies, I would love to have someone to call daddy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm gonna take care of you, daddy. I'm gonna bring you your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, daddy. But I don't want you to ask me what I bring to the table the day we meet.
Right. The day that we meet. Thank you. Okay. I got another comment. Dot says the gold diggers. Nasima, I'm just gonna quarterback this right to you.
I mean, I think nothing strikes a nerve with mediocrity than someone saying that they don't need someone. And so, like you said, the only time you hear responses or somebody even saying, "Well, what do you bring to the table?" is from broke people. I just feel like anytime like you get this overwhelming response, it's usually from people who are not happy with their lives. And for somebody to say we're gold diggers, first of all, I've only heard people talk about gold diggers, broke people talk about gold diggers because people who have money that spend money on women do not care. Right. So who cares? I mean, like, yeah, I would love somebody to trick off on me. Yes, that would be nice, you know. And if somebody said differently, I would be like, you're lying. So yeah, sure, bring on the gold diggers.
Okay.
Jade, you got something to say about that?
I mean, it's just one of those things. It's just so interesting. Obviously, you can judge people off of a short clip, which is fine. If we're gold diggers, then the guys that we date are gold diggers too, because we're both bringing something to the table. Is how I look at it, right? It's not. All of us are very well employed. All of us are very independent and can be. Would we like to be in relationships and like to be in a space where we felt cared for and loved and protected and even spoiled somewhat? I don't think that there's a woman on the planet that doesn't want that. But it's so fun. Y'all, I am not going to lie. It's funny because Patty, you said you're not used to guys responding this way. Let me tell you, over my media career, some of the harshest comments that I've ever received have been from men. You know
Wow.
what I mean? Seriously. It always baffles me because I'm like, wow, you really took time out of your day. Because there's so many things I see online that I don't agree with, and I just keep it
Right.
pushing, right? Or I may call my homegirl and be like, girl, let's talk about this. Tell me if you see this another way or whatever. But to actually get my Twitter fingers together and leave harsh comments to try to, because a comment struck a nerve, now I want to hurt you back. Like, this is why I'm single. You know what I mean? Because you can't have like, we're gonna disagree on this type thing, and then labels have to be thrown and names have to be called, and you know, it's just too much. It's unfortunate because we talk about, these are grown men. These were not teenagers that were leaving these comments. These were grown men.
Yeah, one
Grown
of the
men.
guys on the comment section was telling us, I tried to understand where he was coming from. And his comment later down was that I have sons and I'm worried about the type of women that he's going to be dealing with inside the society. And then I went further down to see one of his earlier comments, and the earlier comment was extremely insulting. Like, I think he said a bunch of, he called us a bunch of linebackers talking. And I went back to that and I
What is that?
responded and I said, this is what you're teaching your sons. You're worried about what your sons are learning from what women are talking about on an open forum, publicly having an open discussion about a question that really makes it more about like a transactional than relationships. And then you're calling women linebackers. That's what you're teaching your son. And that's what I told him, on that. I want to read a comment that was from a very successful man on Twitter. I was looking for this. So as I was looking down, it says, the reason that professionally ambitious men prefer women from the same socioeconomic background is because men look to their partner for professional and personal counsel. You need to be able to be informed and a sounding board. And after looking back at that video on TikTok so many times, I really thought we should have had more time on what Jade said. How do we have an appropriate conversation about getting to know? And I think what really got misconstrued or misunderstood in our last segment was, or from just based on that commentary, was that they did take a piece of the conversation and create a lot of dialogue. And I guess that's good for these sort of shows. You want that sort of that dialogue. But at the same time, I think what makes that very challenging is that we were talking about that being the first question, like, what do you bring to the table, right? If that's the first question, or that's the energy that you're coming into a relationship with when you meet someone, obviously initially there's an attraction, then you come together and conversation happens. If you're starting with what do you bring to the table, then there's just no chemistry there, right? Like, that's the least interesting thing about you, Naseema, Jade, Kelani. The least interesting thing about you is how much money you got in the bank, what kind of career you have, what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you own. That's the least interesting thing about you. So that's, I think, where we were coming from my perspective.
And you know what's crazy? I didn't even disagree. I mean, I didn't even agree with everybody on here as far as that question is concerned. Like, but what's so interesting is it is a lose-lose situation for a woman. So if I come and you ask me that question on a first date, which is cool, like I'm okay with it, right? If that's how you feel, yes, it may disarm me and make me feel like, okay. But if I actually answer the question, then there is also a very large chance that you will fire back your insecurities possibly and say, oh, okay, so a dude like me, you can't do nothing with a man like me, then you gonna think. So it's a lose-lose situation no matter how if you say don't ask me that question, or if you actually answer the question, depending on the personality that you're dealing with, right? So I just think it again, like, men, when you strike a nerve, and like you said, it was mostly men in the comments, when you strike a nerve, to come back with an insult to me is so kindergartenish. To come back and try to hurt somebody at their core and then talk about their character and you don't even know the background of it. It's like, well, you're probably not the person that I would want to be sitting across the table from anyways, because that is some broad type stuff. That's some female type stuff, honestly.
100%. Well, and the part
Yeah.
that got me, I think, the most is that in the comments, everyone made it seem like we were insinuating that women don't have to bring anything to the table, which was not the nature of the conversation. In relationship in general, regardless of let me make this distinction too. We said very clearly, if you look at the whole segment where we talked about what do people bring to the table, which is posted on our YouTube, we talked about it gender neutrally. right? I'm not going to go to a man and say, well, what do you bring to the table? What are you looking to provide for me? I'm never going to ask that question. That's not the question, because even if I did, and you could sell me a whole ass pipe dream. You could tell me you can do this, you can do that. I can pray for this. I can provide that. I'm going to protect this. I can lead you to the Lord. I know how to lead. I do. You could say all the things that you want to say that make you sound good, but only time will ever tell. So to me, my question then becomes, or the point that we were making is it's a disrespectful question, because one, in that moment when you first meet someone, it's not going to be accurate, because even if somebody is being introspective and says, okay, this is what I bring, maybe to me, maybe that's what I think about myself. Maybe I actually lack introspection. Maybe I'm actually not as healed as I think that I am. Maybe that's not actually entirely true. But you're going to meet the mask of somebody when you start. So to start off a relationship asking, what can you do for me, says more about you than it says about them. No one is saying that people don't bring things to the table. So that, for me, that's the wild part. It's like, no, I'm saying it's not a good question. I'm not saying it's not a valid thought. I'm not saying it's not something to consider in relationship. I'm saying it's not a good question. So anyway, here's another comment I want to highlight, and I want to actually answer it because I'm the one in the clip who said I've never had a well-off man ask me that question. Only broke men have ever asked questions like that. So someone says, Scott78 says, so what is your definition of a broke man? I'm curious on the answer. Well, for me, that answer is very, very simple. And broke is a mentality. Broke is not necessarily about what is in your bank account.
Yep.
It is completely a mentality. Are you complacent? Are you comfortable? Are you striving to progress? Are you striving to become a better human? Are you striving to become better emotionally, spiritually, financially, in all the areas of your life? Are you striving to show up better as a partner? That to me is what broke is about. So does anybody want to tap in on that before I get off that topic?
No, I agree.
Okay. I thought so. See, we be making sense. And diversity of thought is so good. So for anyone that is so offended by things, it's like, okay, come on, just let's have a dialogue about it. That's the hard thing about short form content and TikTok, is that you can't get the fullness of the thought off of a 90-second clip. But hey, yo, we'll take the free promotion. Thank you for talking. Thank you for the
Thanks for the
comments.
engagement.
I mean,
Okay,
I don't know about being broke being just a mentality. I think that if you're not equally yoked, I think equally yoked has a lot to do with both spiritually, emotionally, and financially being balanced at a certain point in your life. It's different when you're 21, 22, 25, 28, maybe even, in your early 30s. But I think the older you get, or the more established you become, just like the gentleman's comment that I read from Twitter, I think it's really important to realize that there is an aspect of being broke that is a mentality, but at the same time, if you're not carrying some sort of weight financially in the relationship, there's going to create an imbalance that's going to lead to a lot of problems. I see it happen all the time. One of my clients just experienced her husband walking out on her after being lost his job about 6 months ago, was trying to handle the pressure of that behind the scenes, couldn't handle the pressure of it. She didn't even know the mortgage was behind because he was handling everything. And he walked out the door and left her just miserable after 8 years. So I think, I think there is a matter of brokenness being a mentality, but also making sure that you are equally yoked financially, even with just the way you manage money, not necessarily how much income you have, but the way you manage those finances going into it.
Managing is so important. I would also like to say, I hope that like the guy in the comment that said, this is why I'm afraid for my sons or whatever. I mean, I can't tell anybody how to raise their children, but I would also encourage you to teach your sons to have standards as well. What your son is bringing to the table, he should also have requirements. I mean, how many of us have been in relationships where, this is going to sound so terrible, but it was only for love, and not understanding that love does not, it doesn't only sustain a relationship. There are other parts that play into it. And so that's the son, this man's sons should have somebody who is also holding her own weight within the relationship, and they should have their own standards, and they should have their own requirements, and find somebody, like Patty said, who is going to spiritually, financially, and mentally add value to their life, right? And so it's not a compare and contrast. And men and women, we have to understand that this is not a you versus us type thing. Like, we are all stronger together, but stop making women feel guilty for having standards. Stop making women feel guilty for for having requirements. Again, we're again, the assumption was made that we're all sitting around here, none of us ain't got no jobs, we're just waiting on a man to take care of us.
Right.
Like, I think that not only do we all bring something to the table, we bring the table with us. And so there's nothing wrong with us requiring some legs to that table as well. So you just got to be careful what you assume, when you hear people's opinions about things. So
Yeah. And I have a question because, more than just responding to the comments, I want to highlight the idea that, cyberbullying is really real. I read some of the controversial comments about the topic. I didn't read the mean comments about how we look, that we must have cats. Patty brought up the linebacker question or whatever people say, so this question is really more for, I'd say Jade and Nasima, who have really large social media followings. This is probably not the first, and this definitely is not going to be the last time you guys have ever seen some nasty comments. How do you guys handle the internet trolls and cyberbullying?
It's hard. It's challenging, because you try not to take things personally, but at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And a lot of things that we put out there publicly, and a lot of things I put out there publicly, is to help people and to get a spirit back of negativity and just straight up nastiness is pretty frustrating, especially when a lot of the times I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart and not because it's bringing me any kind of revenue or anything. Like, you are paying me. I'm showing up because I truly am in the spirit of like trying to help other people. So it is hard. I've gotten really, especially when I talk about Black maternal morbidity and mortality, I get a lot of racist trolling comments, and it's like, it's expected. However, what I don't like is if I report it and then the powers that be say, oh, that's not offensive, but I could get my whole page taken down for saying, hey girl, yes, like, whoop, beat that up or something like that. And it's like totally a misunderstanding of just common African American vernacular, and that's considered offensive. But if somebody calls me a nigger and all these other things on my page, that's not considered offensive. And it just speaks, that is more problematic to me than ignorant people.
I agree. I would say, you have to listen to yourself. And I don't care if we all are adults and we, love to play this tough mentality, like words don't hurt. Words can be very hurtful, especially when you're expressing yourself from a place of kindness and love and helping and extending yourself. And the problem with society today is people don't know how to just disagree with you without insulting you or wanting to say something mean. It is okay to have an opposing opinion. It is okay to have a constructive dialogue where maybe at the end we just agree to disagree because we come from two different backgrounds. We've learned different things. We just have been exposed to different things. And so we're just never going to agree. We have to be okay with that. But yeah, the insulting and everything, I think that oftentimes I have to take a break. My block button is, I wouldn't even want to look and see how many people I've blocked, because every once in a while I do be having time. I ain't gonna lie. I will go back and forth with people. You know what I'm saying? Depend on, like, if you catch me on the wrong or right day, I may end up going back and forth. But then sometimes I have to look at myself and say, like, this is really affecting my spirit. Like, I don't feel good today. This is not making me feel good. And I'll have to take a couple of days away from it. And think about it. If we're dealing with that as adults, think about what our children or teenagers or kids have to deal with, because they are not mentally as strong as we are, And so, there's a lot of brave people on the internet that would never say these things to you in person, but you do have to listen to yourself. You can't control other people. You can control who you block. You can control, to a certain extent, who you let on your page sometimes. You got to be mentally strong for it, but at the same time, I say step away. I always say listen to your heart, listen to your mind, listen to your spirit, and take a break to go refill yourself. Because that one comment, you could be like, it could really cause some insecurities in you. It'd be from the wrong person. And I mean, it sucks. It really does. Because it's like, you want to grow your platform because it brings more exposure, possibly more opportunity. But the more people that come on your page, the more opportunities for people to just troll you and bully you.
You made a good point about, about the insecurity, and people need to be very, very careful. You might not get a Jade or a Nasima or a Patty or a Kaylani on the other side of the screen that just says "F you," like I'm keeping it pushing. You might actually get somebody who is who internalizes what you say, and especially if it's an abundance of that. Like if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say it. We can have an intelligent conversation. And that's why I started to respond to some of those comments, and I did. But you know who responded to those comments? Shout out to my little sister. I don't know if y'all, she was going crazy in the comments. And I'm like, she felt a need to defend me and defend us, because how dare someone say cruel and hurtful things for someone having an opinion, right? So I guess for me, the question is, if you got time to be sitting here on TikTok trolling my comments and worried about what I'm doing, you probably got a little too much time on your hands. And we're gonna leave it right there. All right, that's enough. That's as much energy we're gonna give to this. I really wanted to highlight the bullying, the internet, cyber bullying and trolling, and really help people understand how impactful it truly is. But if y'all want smoke in the comments, you're liable to get them over here. Okay, so let's get into today's topics. Let's not waste any more time on that. I want to get into it. I'm going to go ahead and quarterback this to Patty, because Patty, I saw your newsletter that came out on Monday. You told us that Wednesday was a big day because Jerome Powell was speaking. You want to give us a market and economic update just from what you can from what happened today.
Well, yeah, I mean, every week on Mondays when I send out the newsletter, it's designed to get everyone to focus on the right sources of news that are going to impact the bond market and, as a result, interest rates. Because from my perspective, we're talking about real estate. Jerome Powell did speak today, but there are 14 instances this week where members of the Fed are going to be speaking. And Jerome didn't say anything new today. He just reiterated the fact that they are focused on bringing the target inflation rate down to 2%. There was a 90% chance that there was going to be a rate cut in March. Well, we're in April. There was no rate cut. So you have to realize that the conversations that are taking place Jerome Powell reiterated that they're looking at data in between meetings. He said this over and over and over again for over a year now. So the point that he made today was that they don't know, they can't determine whether or not this uptick in inflation or the stubborn nature of inflation at this time stagnating is temporary. They can't. You guys have to realize that if they cut interest rates too soon, inflation is going to go crazy again, because people have not stopped spending money in a high interest rate environment. People have not stopped buying homes. Home prices have not stopped rising. People have not stopped buying cars. People haven't stopped buying groceries. The percentage of people that are living paycheck to paycheck are high, but the economy hasn't broken to the point where various sectors are suffering in a great way. As a matter of fact, they're growing. The economy continues to grow. And so other notes that were highlighted in the newsletter explain exactly why that is. And on Monday, interest rates jumped up significantly when the manufacturers' reports came out. It's called an ISA report. This report comes out and it's about manufacturing, right? So if you own a company and you have a good that's being manufactured and manufacturing companies are growing, that means more people are relying on them to manufacture goods, right? So that means the economy is growing at a pace that I think the data was something about since 2019, we haven't seen this much growth. And there has been consistent growth in the economy ever since interest rates were hiked. Okay, so the point of hiking an interest rate is to slow down the economy, and it's not slowing down. Nope. So therefore, the economy can sustain a higher interest rate environment, and dropping interest rates too soon would be detrimental to inflation, progress that's been made on inflation. So we're not going to see interest rates being cut until you're going to see unemployment rising and inflation headed downward quick. And there are no signs right now that support the fact that inflation is going to continue to go down, although there are signs of some weakness in the labor department. I would argue that weakness is not going to be enough to get us a rate cut.
So if we're not cutting, are we hiking or we're just staying? Like what?
There's no reason to hike. The interest rates would just remain flat where they are. So if the Federal Reserve decides to keep them where they are at the 5.25%, it's the idea that they'll be higher for longer. So that just means that the That's called restrictive monetary policy, where you have a higher rate. And that means there's less money in circulation. If they opened up the floodgates and put more money into circulation, the prices of goods and services would skyrocket. If interest rates went down right now, homeowners would be suffering a great deal. Affordability is a problem because of interest rates and home prices and wage growth, not just interest rates. It's actually more likely that you're going to see a significant increase to your income before you're going to see a significant decrease to home prices.
And isn't
Right.
it true as far as homes are concerned? And I think you may have mentioned this in your commentary. If the interest rates drop, the prices of the homes are going to skyrocket. So it's a lose-lose situation. You have so many people that are waiting on the interest rates to drop before they even purchase, but that's not a good strategy necessarily.
How they're correlated is that when you have, so for if there was an article right now that said interest rates drop, mortgage rates drop by 0.25%, not the Fed funds rate, you're going to see 25% increase to buyers to the market.
That's
So
crazy.
what happens is if there's only 10 properties on the market and there's 30 people offering, there's your problem. That's what drives prices up. So there's lots of commentary on Twitter where you see listing agents talking about taking multiple offers, and these offers keep coming in higher and higher and higher. Buyers can't compete. If they're doing that in a 7% interest rate environment, what do you think is going to happen in a 6% interest rate environment? So the best time to buy a house is when you're buying within your means. If you can afford it, you've got to get out there and place those offers.
That's good.
So, Patty, what does this mean, like as far as spending? So you're saying that the rates are high, inflation is high, but people are still spending money. How would we see improvements in our economic conditions? Is it to kind of like stop spending, put more effort into saving, reducing our expenses, like holistically, economically? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, from an individual perspective, right? So if you're concerned about your job or there's massive layoffs happening at your work, then yeah, you'd be foolish to spend too much. And you'd also be foolish not to be looking at other job opportunities ahead of that, right? Getting ahead of that. From a more national perspective, what we would need to see is less growth. And I don't know what the solution to that would be. Because the government is spending money as if it's never going to go out of style. We have over $100 trillion in debt that's the interest on that is ridiculous. So from a national scale, if you have a government that is spending out of control and there's not enough money coming in to offset that, there's only a few things that can solve for that. Higher taxes, a complete global economic reset, or you have to have, some sort of massive event that really changes the way that the dollar is valued. There's just no way that they can keep spending. And the number one cause of inflation is actually government spending, according to economists that have been speaking about this, more quietly, because no one's going to have that on the headline, right? So government spending is a massive, massive problem. We have to cut that. So when you're voting, think about that. Think about the government spending is out of control. There is just absolutely no reason. And this is a direct threat to future Social Security. Let's talk about infrastructure, right? Everyone knows about this bridge that collapsed, right? I'm not saying that the bridge wouldn't have collapsed if we had more investment in infrastructure, because this boat running into it, the cargo ship running into it, was a massive, massive problem. But we're not spending money on infrastructure. We're not building schools. We're not creating education. We're not putting money into retirement. What we're doing is spending money on things that we shouldn't be spending money on. So we have to think about that. You have to excuse me for just a minute. One second.
We'll see you in a second. So Naseema, you're having a reaction to this, right? Like you're nodding, you're agreeing. I think that I don't want to get too in the weeds. We always put Patty on the spot because this is like her lane for economic updates, really understanding, putting things into layman's terms, like the comment just said, for people to understand. What I am, and I'll wait for her to get back to ask my question, but I see you nodding and agreeing. And I want to actually transition to a topic about retirement here shortly. But, I feel like a lot of us are almost, I don't like to use the word victim, but all of this is happening to us and around us. We have very little control over anything at this point. So, why are you nodding and agreeing this way? What can we do from your perspective for someone who manages money and wealth so well?
The thing is that there's personal responsibility and then there's a bigger economic picture. And we all have a role in our personal finances, right? And there's this overall thing going on, that Patty is highlighting in our economy. And so you need to understand that with the lens of saying, like, what do I have direct control over, right? And so what we typically have direct control over is how we earn our income, even if we get laid off, like, should we be making sure that, we have a backup plan? Should we be making sure that our expenses are cut down to only what we need and not focusing on frivolous spending? Um, our housing and transportation costs are always going to be our two biggest drivers in our budgets, right? Are those things within, like, what you can afford if something were to happen? Do you have an emergency fund? Like, all of these things that happen in the bigger economy should give you a point to check in, like,
Mhm.
and do seasonally. Okay, where am I at with my finances right now as a baseline? Where am I at if I were to lose a job? Where am I at if interest rates keep on climbing? Like, what outstanding debt do I have? What are some things I can do right now to get on top of that? And so it's not about playing victim. It's really about understanding that there are things that are outside of your control. But if you can keep in check those things that you do have under your control, you'll be in a much better financial situation than most people, because most people are just reactive. But if you can be proactive, you're putting yourself in a place to not be destitute.
Can I chime in on that too? Everything you said was spot on, Nasima. I think and y'all will hear me say this a lot because this is just like my thing. One of the keys to me to financial success is understanding the concept of delayed gratification.
Mhm.
You buy what you can until you can buy what you want. And we live in such a pressurized society where we have to keep up. And I think we've all felt that pressure before. We've all spent when we didn't need to. We've all overbought. So I'll be the first to raise my hand. Like, this is not a jug at anybody. But for those that can learn the concept of delayed gratification, it is, to me, that is where wealth building begins, right? Like, you see everybody driving around in the nicer cars. You see everybody buying the bigger houses and posting them on the gram. And, nobody ever wants to be left behind. Nobody ever wants to appear to have the lesser. But we also have to remember that this life is a marathon. So it doesn't matter what it looks like right now. It matters what it looks like in 10 years. And to your point, Nasima, it's the thing of, like, if the government is fickle, if you don't know what society and the economics are going to look like, we have to have delayed gratification so that we can make sure that we can take care of ourselves and our family later on down the line, for whenever for whenever there is inflation, for whenever there is whatever comes up that, like you said, that we can't control. These are the things that we can't control. And that piece of delayed gratification is just so key to me. We are overspenders, not because necessarily we want things. A lot of times we're overspenders because we want to have a perception or an image, and it's reflected upon the people that are around us. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a hard concept for me to learn over the years, right? I'm not a frivolous spender. My father's Jamaican, so if we ain't do nothing else, we save money, okay? But at the same time, there are certain things, we all have our things. Like, I love to shop, right? I love clothes and I love shoes, right? I love sneakers. And over this last 6 months, I've literally had to tell myself, I cannot do it. I can afford it, but I also am like, I got to think further down the road. I have 50 pair of shoes here that I can't wear every single day. So yes, I want this other color, but is it really necessary, right? And that's just on a small scale. I've had friends that I have seen, like, they pull up on me in a big body, like, I'm talking nice cars, right? And I'm happy for them. But I also know that, just a few months ago, things were tight. So, but, society tells you if you look a certain way on the outside, then you get a certain level of respect, right? And so it's just, again, delayed gratification. I just want everybody, that is the word, like, delayed gratification. If we can delay this instant gratification and people thinking that we're popping, I think that most of us will be okay.
We have to understand too that part of capitalism is consumerism. And so it is what's normalized for society. It's not normalized for you to be like, hold on, wait a minute, let me put some money aside for a rainy day. We're constantly inundated with messages on spending in every avenue, every platform that we engage with. We are inundated with these messages. And until we can intentionally reverse those messages and understand that these things aren't serving you long term, they're serving, to hype up and inflate this system, then we are going to continue on this cycle. And so it's weird to not be a consumer. It's weird to hold back and stop and only focus on what your needs are. But I would say for people to strive to be weird.
You know what else is weird? I love that. Striving to be weird. You know what else is weird? For some reason nowadays, just being regular is weird to people. I'm like, why we can't be regular anymore?
Hella regular.
Yeah, I'm like, I just don't understand it. I'm like, it's so funny. A friend and I were talking about that. I hosted an event. This was a few months ago, and all the VIP tickets went so fast. And you can't almost force people to spend money on general admission. Everybody's hitting you up like, y'all got any more VIPs? Y'all got any more VIPs?
Me.
And it's like, and I get it, but I guess at the same time,
me.
it's like the type of event it was like, it's okay to just come in and get the information. You know what I mean? Like, so you're telling me you don't even want to be in the building to immerse yourself in the community and in the information if you have to be regular. And I get it. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm with you. Like to a certain extent, Kaylani, is like, I obviously would like to do VIP, but it's like, regular nowadays is weird to people. And I'm like, y'all, it is okay to be regular. We have got to put the humanness back in humanity. Like, nobody wants to be human. Everybody wants to be a celebrity. Everybody wants to have this thing nowadays.
Competition.
It is. It's hard.
It's all the competition. And so I want to bring this back to almost like a business, looking at this through a business lens, because as a consumer or somebody who's not maybe working in financial markets, you don't have to necessarily be aware of what the economy is doing all of the time. I work in real estate. Of course, I have to be abreast of what is happening. What I can tell you though is people that are tapped in, right? Like saw this coming. I saw this coming. Did y'all see, Nasima, did you see this coming? Jay, did you see this coming?
What
saw it
is
coming.
funny? Yeah, but it happens. I mean, like
It's a
keeps
cycle.
repeating. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
Like, and for some reason, every time it happens, people are surprised. Morgan Housel wrote a book, like it says, everything is this. That's called like Everything is the Same or something like that. And it's just about like things constantly repeat itself. If you study history and cycles, you know that like every 10 years, something happens in the economy to break the economy and it resets. And usually it's the thing that we're like, oh, it's close approaching that 10-year mark. We got to do something to break it. So let's break it because we're anticipating it. But anyway, then everybody is like so surprised that it happens. And it blows my mind. Like, just stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Ooh-wee.
Absolutely. And this is part of it. And if you are preparing yourself, you get to take advantage of the ebbs and flows, because for everybody in real estate that I know, everyone who is an investor, everyone who was prepared was waiting for this moment, because when there's blood in the water, the sharks will come. There's opportunity now. So if you don't let this happen to you, learn how to capitalize when these moments happen, right? There are 4 cycles. I just pulled it up, so I wasn't trying to pull it out of my memory, but there are 4 stages in an economic cycle: expansion, contraction, recession, and recovery, right? There are 4, and they happen like clockwork. Those are the 4 stages of an economic cycle.
Right.
We are currently in the recession, even though they're not labeling this as a recession. We're currently in the recession period because the government is trying to re-regulate, right? So pretty soon we will be up on the upward climb, right? Which is the expansion. And the upward climb is always way longer, takes way more time than the decline, right? Going down the slope of the graph, if you think about it that way. And so it's really preparing yourself to take advantage, thinking about how you're going to make extra income, thinking about, you made a really great point, Nasima, about looking for work, or Jade, or who said that? Patty said that. Looking for work. I have a great friend who great job, works in tech, was doing fine. Said, you know what? I think we can do better. Let me go. I see where the trends are going. I see I need to be more in, AI product development, less people, right? We see where the industry is changing and how it's transitioning. So it's having the foresight to position yourself correctly. And if you are in real estate and you are not aware of what's going on, understand that right now is your time to make some things shake. And when we hit the recovery part of the economic cycle, you and everybody else are going to be doing the same exact thing for about 10 more years until we hit another blip in the matrix like we're experiencing today. So make sure that you guys position yourself to take advantage of these downturns. Downturns aren't necessarily bad. They are needed to regulate. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, well, I know we got to transition. We only have a few more minutes on the show. So guess what? I have been checking the That's What She Said mailbox, and I have a letter from somebody that was on with us last week. Now, this person is going to remain anonymous, but she wants our help, okay? It says, "Dear That's What She Said, I am engaged to the man of my dreams. He literally checks all of my boxes. He makes me feel emotionally secure. He is so kind. I've never met a man that I have loved this much. I am also 8 months pregnant. All right, congratulations on the new baby on the way. And everything has been perfect until 3 months ago. I make $350,000 a year. My husband was making really great money, but we have now fallen on hard times because he has lost his job. We are getting ready to have this child. This was not what we ideally wanted. So I want to know what your opinions are on role reversals. We are actually considering me staying at work full time after I have my baby and him staying home to be a full-time father. Oh, by the way, did I mention he cooks too? So she said, but what I'm afraid of is how my family and even my friends may perceive this role reversal that we may do. So what do you think about role reversals? And it's so funny that we were talking about all this stuff earlier. And then all of a sudden, now we get this letter today to talk about, gender roles. Like, first of all, do we believe in gender roles? And second of all, is it okay for the woman to be the breadwinner and, pay all the bills and he stays home? That traditionally would be what you would see the woman to do.
Okay, Nasima, you want to go first?
Well, you know what? Actually, I actually did a whole podcast episode on this with like somebody that does therapy for couples in similar situations, and she was actually going through this with her husband. And I think it's really important. First of all, like, if you believe in gender roles, don't believe in gender roles. They do like exist in society. And even if it's not something that you guys as partners believe in, like, there's family, there's friends, there's somebody that is always going to say something, right? And I would never want to be in a role of a stay-at-home mom, but that's just not how I roll. Like, I never wanted to do that. And there's plenty of men that would be happy to stay at home and take care of their kids. So I think the first thing is to come to a common understanding as partners on how you guys view it, and know that because of the outside influences, you might have some pressures that may be challenging and may cause you to question, like, is this okay? Or think that it's not okay. But I think what's important is for each of them individually to kind of figure out how they feel about it, so they don't bring their older interpretations into the situation or outside influences into the situation, and kind of know that it's something that they're going to have to continually check in on. And what's funny
Nasima, would you do it? Would you be able to, let's just get down to the nitty gritty. Could you be in a partnership and your man stay home and take care of the kids, and you be out every day as a woman and be like, take care of the house financially?
You know what? For every relationship I've been in, I've been the breadwinner. And actually, as a kid, that's how I actually imagined my relationships looking, oddly enough. Like, I don't
Wow.
know. So I would be okay with it. The only issue is that every time I've been in a situation like that with a man, even though they say that they're okay with it initially, it
Mhm.
always comes up later that
Woo.
it's something that they're struggling with, even though this was something that we are on the same page with. So therapy, like I think other kind of interventions need to happen on both sides so that people can be comfortable with it, because again, societal pressures, norms, what people friends say about them, even though it is what it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't necessarily believe in gender roles. I think that there are people, other men can take care of babies just as well or better than some women. So, you know, I don't mind.
Okay, what about you, Kaylani? What do you think? Role reversals. Man stays home. He's cooking, cleaning. Not to say that, but I'm just saying what she said in her letter is he'll be home taking care of the new baby. She'll be going out to
Mhm.
work. He'll be cooking. He'll be cleaning. He'll be taking care of the house and the kids, and she will be financially supporting the family.
So the first thing I'm going to say is it's your relationship, it's your life. You do what works
Mhm.
for you, right? If that works for you, I have a great friend who is extremely successful now. Her husband um, is a doctor, already doing well. She came in this real estate game and took it over. And I mean, she is killing it. So much so where we've had conversations about, and she's got twin daughters, by the way, that are really young. And we've had conversations about the fact that she's like, well, once I was in position, why would I make him, does he need to? He's taking care of things for so long. If I'm in position now and we're doing just fine, he can work if he wants to. That's up to him because we're good. She's really approaching it as a unit. And I was like, wow, I really admire that about her. And it challenged my thought process for a minute because I'm like, well, if I was in that same position and I'm like, for my husband, I get it. But now this is a different situation. Now we're talking about like necessity and need. And so I would ask her, is this what you envisioned? Right?
Mhm.
Is this what you envision? Is this what you want? And
Now I'll
if
say
it's
this: I can't obviously answer for her, but it sounded like they just fell on hard times. So I don't think that
Mhm.
this was. That's the thing. I don't think it was a
Premeditated.
part of the
Yeah.
plan, right? He was making really good money before. He's now lost his job. She only has a month or maybe a few weeks. The way that people don't carry all the way through all the
well,
time,
she's
but
gonna be on maternity leave too, right? So it's
That's
like
a whole
something's
other thing too. You don't know how you're gonna respond to having a baby.
right. That's
And
what I'm
this is her
thinking.
first baby, like, that in itself is already like a conundrum that they kinda have to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think my question would be, so let's assume she has the baby, right? She goes back to work, he's at home. Let's just assume that that's the scenario. I think one thing is going to be really funny to see, and that's going to be how he would perceive and really maybe start to understand and empathize with what women normally take on and how much work and mental labor and emotional labor that they normally take on. So I think that's going to be a great actualization for him. But I would say if that's not the plan for the relationship for the long term, don't get stuck there. But we ride, we thug it out. You know what I mean? If it just because, and this is what I was talking about earlier in the show, broke is a mentality. It has nothing to do with what's in the bank account in the moment. Are you getting complacent? Are you expecting her to do all the work? Is she want to do all the work? Are you putting her in a position that she doesn't actually want to be in, that wasn't agreed upon before you guys got married or whatever? For the long term, that's going to exhaust her. That's going to cause resentment and all kinds of things. But if it works for you guys, it works. If it doesn't, homeboy, don't get stuck there. Let's find you something else and let's keep it pumping. Me personally, me personally, I if it's just a hard time, then we're thugging it out. I've been in that situation too, Nasima, where my significant other at the time had fallen on hard times, gotten or became unemployed. I held the fort down. He had a really hard time trying to like reestablish himself and regain his footing. And I'm not into abandoning somebody or kicking them while they're down. But what you're not going to do is take advantage of me in that process. You're not going to sit at home. You're not going to play video games. You're not going to do nothing. You're not going to just be too bougie for the other jobs. You're going to actually have to figure out how to contribute. And if we can do that, then we can make it work.
look, Latoya is asking why can't he find another job? That's all she said in the letter, Latoya. We don't have all. We need to call this woman on the phone. She slid in our DMs. Okay, this is all. Look, just like a woman, we are like, well, we need to know this. We need to we need the details.
We need context.
Anonymous, next time you're gonna have to give us a little bit more details. And it just what's interesting about what she's saying is it is the pressure of the societal norms, right? It is the thing of regardless. I agree. The relationship is obviously between you and your partner. However, we have all thought to ourselves like, oh Lord, I'm gonna have to hear my mom's mouth, my dad's mouth. What is my family and my friends gonna say? How does this look? As women, I think we put a lot of that pressure on ourselves. And I'm with you ladies. I'm like, there is no handbook to relationships. What works for one does not work for the next. Y'all make whatever y'all make work. And be happy, raise that child in a positive environment, and just do what you do. So yeah, personally, it's funny. I was thinking to myself when she was saying, "And my man cooks," I'm like, that's one of the things I really want. I really want a man that cooks.
Yes,
because I
it's
don't.
clutch. Okay,
Where they
cannot
find those
cook.
at?
I need a man that cooks, y'all.
yeah.
Where they find those at? I'm gonna put that on the list, Jay. I'm gonna put that on the list.
Oh, we got to talk about this next time. Me and Kaylani
Yeah.
have been talking about lists. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are 3 minutes to the hour. This has been a wonderful another show. That's what she said. Before we get on up out of here, tell people where they can find you, where to tap in. Nasima, go ahead and take us out.
All right. I am typically on Instagram at Financially Intentional, financiallyintentional.com, and at the Financially Intentional Podcast.
You can find me at I am Lady Jade on Instagram. I'm slowly but surely, this sun is coming in my window and doing something funny. So I am fading out. But yeah, follow me on Instagram at I am Lady Jade.
You're just shining. You're just glowing, darling. My name is Kaylani Blackwell. You can find me on all socials at Kaylani B, KELANIB. Apparently, I'm a TikToker now since I have started responding to all these comments and hate mail. It's Kaylani B on TikTok. And if you're interested in women in real estate and you need a community of people to help you, you can go ahead and head over to joinwomeninrealestate.com. Get all of the help and support that you need. Welcoming you with open arms. I have my arms open. You can't see them, but they're open. Welcoming you with open arms to help you. I see my Wire members in the comments. Thank you guys for showing up all day, every day. And ladies, that's what she said. We out.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.